You hear it before you see it. A quiet crunch underfoot, a soft shift in the soil, the kind of sound that tells you the ground is not as solid as it looks. A cemetery feels permanent, like it's outside of time. But it's not. It's a landscape that has to be managed carefully so it stays stable year after year. And that brings us to the line everyone knows, 6 feet under. Here's the problem. The phrase is everywhere, but the number isn't. So what changed? Were graves ever truly 6 feet deep as a standard? If not, where did the number come from, and why did it survive longer than the reality behind it? Because once you follow that question, you realize burial depth isn't tradition, it's a negotiation with the ground. Let's start with the obvious thing nobody notices. The United States doesn't have a federal law requiring graves to be 6 feet deep. Never has. Burial depth is shaped by state rules, local ordinances, and cemetery standards, meaning 6 feet was never universal to begin with. And in practice today, many graves end up closer to 4 or 5 feet, not 6. The phrase stuck because it's dramatic and memorable. But cemeteries don't run on drama, they run on constraints. So where did 6 feet come from? The most popular origin story traces back to the Great Plague of London in 1665. Authorities required plague burials to be at least 6 feet deep, an attempt to control fear of contagion. That number lodged itself in culture, and culture turned it into myth. A crisis rule from one city during one epidemic centuries ago became the default mental picture for death worldwide. Now, forget the phrase and picture the real job. A grave isn't just a hole, it's a controlled excavation that has to stay stable while open, then remain safe for decades after it's closed. The deeper you go, the more the walls want to collapse. Add rain, and soil shifts from solid to slippery in minutes. Depth isn't aesthetic, it's structural. Today, when you see a modern burial, you're watching civil engineering. The cemetery wants that surface flat and stable, so visitors don't trip, mowers don't bounce, and neighboring plots don't sag into depressions. That's why many cemeteries require outer burial containers, like grave liners or vaults. They're structural supports designed to prevent the ground from caving in as contents decompose. It's infrastructure pretending to be reverence. But here comes the part nobody sees. The real enemy is water. Dig down far enough and you hit the water table. Suddenly, the grave becomes a bathtub. Pumps help, but they slow everything and add cost. And if soil is rocky, full of clay, or sits above bedrock, 6 feet becomes dangerous. Workers can't safely dig vertical walls that deep in unstable ground. So cemeteries adapt, because the system has to work in reality, not mythology. The result? 6 feet gets quietly replaced by something more accurate, enough depth for safety, cover, and local compliance. That's why burial depth varies depending on where you are. And here's a twist. Some graves go deeper than 6 feet, not for tradition, but for space. Double depth plots stack 2 burials vertically in the same footprint, pushing excavation well beyond what the phrase suggests. If you're finding this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe to The Curious Mechanism for more hidden engineering stories. But you're probably thinking, isn't deeper always safer? Here's the truth. Deeper creates new failure modes. More depth means greater collapse risk while open, more groundwater exposure, longer dig times, and higher chances of unpredictable settling. The system isn't brute force, it's control. Cemeteries choose depths that keep operations safe and repeatable, because repeatability prevents accidents. Now comes the invisible part. Cemeteries are designed expecting ground movement. Soil settles, roots grow, rain erodes, freeze-thaw cycles crack surfaces, so the system builds in redundancy through containers, grading, drainage, spacing, and maintenance schedules that keep land stable year after year. When it works, you see nothing. That flatness is constant, invisible management. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Modern life depends on this system working flawlessly. Death doesn't pause because cities get crowded or soil gets complicated. If burial infrastructure became unreliable for 1 week, no prepared graves, no predictable timelines, funeral homes would bottleneck, families would face delays, and the logistical chain would strain. We forget because it works too well. When it works, it looks like grass and silence. So 6 feet under isn't a measurement, it's a story we inherited, a phrase that gave death a tidy number. But the ground doesn't care about stories. It cares about water, weight, collapse, and time. Modern burials aren't getting shallower because standards dropped. They're getting smarter, optimized for real forces, engineered to keep surfaces safe while honoring the dead, in a world where space is finite and physics is unforgiving. So next time you hear that phrase, 6 feet under, remember what's beneath you. Not a rule, but an engineered compromise, a system balancing gravity and dignity in a place designed to look effortless, because if it stopped working, everyone would notice. If this changed how you see cemeteries, subscribe to The Curious Mechanism and hit the like button. Share this with someone who said 6 feet under their whole life and never asked why. This is The Curious Mechanism, exploring the invisible systems that keep the world running.